Welcome to the Stories of Friendship podcast. I am joined today by Byron and Margaret McKee. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Byron. I'm co-host of the Beyond I Do podcast.
And I am his wife of 27 years, Margaret. And we are so happy to be here with you and share our story that started with our friendship.
Yep.
I'm very grateful too that you jumped in and said, "Hey, I want to share this story." This is a unique story because we have a married couple on a podcast that's particularly about platonic relationships.
Mhm.
So what they're going to tell us today is actually about how their love started off as platonic before it went romantic. So I'm going to let Byron and Margaret jump right into it and start from the beginning.
All right. Picture it. Georgia, 1992.
It was 91.
91. I'm sorry. It was 91. I always say 92 because that's when we officially started talking to each other. But 91 is when we actually first met. Started out, she had a crush on one of my friends. And so we're in high school. So my friend and I had detention. So he got dropped off at my house and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go around the corner, talk to my friend Margaret." And I was like, "This is my neighborhood. I don't know Margaret. So I need to go investigate and see what this is." So we made the little journey around the corner. Her and her cousins are sitting outside. She does not notice me at all.
Mm-hmm. I don't even remember that day.
I don't even know if you even spoke to me.
I probably didn't.
I was just standing there like, the little dunce or whatever. So fast forward a couple of months later, we were reintroduced by another friend. And we used to travel in the same friend group. So we would run into each other like, at different teen hangouts. And we would always be drawn to each other. Just like, this is my friend, we would, we were sitting at a table, the group would sit at a table to eat. Her and I would be sitting somewhere either right next to each other or right across from each other.
Now, we know Margaret at this point has interest in another friend, but Byron, at this point too, you are not really looking at Margaret as an interest. You're not interested in her yet, right? You guys are just hanging out as in these groups.
There was an interest, but it was kind of like unspoken. You know how you kind of like you as a teenager, you like, I like her, but I don't want her to know that I like her just yet. So, you just kind of, just around. I just want to be around her. That's all I know.
And throughout that time, we tried to date. That didn't work, and we reverted back to friendship. Yep. And one thing that drew me to him was just I could be comfortable. I could be myself. I was known to be a bit of a handful, a little bit feisty, big, quick-witted, yep. And so to be able to be around someone and not have to put the walls up and feel like I have to protect myself. And so even though I can tell you, I didn't have any interest in him that way, or at least not consciously, until much later on. But I knew that I was comfortable with him and I enjoyed spending time with him. We could talk, we could laugh, I could be myself. And that was how we started being friends. I ended up leaving for school, and whenever I would come home for breaks, we would spend time together. I'd let him know I'm home. You want to go have dinner? You want to go hang out? And we would go.
Yep.
And he had a girlfriend. I'm trying to think if it was before or after I met her, but I don't know if I had learned of her existence until I met her. I was in the mall one day and we bumped into each other and they were together. Mm-hmm. So There again, platonic friends. He had his girlfriend, and
because that didn't mean anything to you that he had a girlfriend. This is your friend, and he has found somebody, and they're dating. You're happy for them,
right? Well, I was not happy for them because I wasn't. It was not that I was unhappy because he had a girlfriend. I was unhappy because she was not a very nice girlfriend to him, and that's what, like we said, we had friends in common, and so they would call me and say she did this or she did that, and so hearing those things was upsetting to me because I knew he's such a good person. He has such a good heart. And I was like, he doesn't deserve that. He deserves better than that. So it wasn't that he had a girlfriend that bothered me. It was the fact that he was being mistreated. But I didn't even talk to him about her because it was that first meeting in the mall was not, she was not very pleasant. And so I never brought her up or mentioned her or anything to him because I knew I wasn't going to say anything nice and I didn't want to be disrespectful to his relationship.
Okay. So, and Byron, at this point, how's the temperature with you and this female that you're dating? Like, are you guys close? Are you thinking that this is somebody that you want to be with, or it's just you were in the dating phase?
We were just in the dating phase. I don't even know if I actually saw a future necessarily. But we dated strong for about a year and a half. And
so in that year and a half, did your friends tell you, "Hey, we don't like her"?
No. Well,
they told me though.
I had one friend.
We talked about it behind his back.
Now you got to keep in mind we were teenagers when all this was going on, so we were jumping into adulthood. I had just graduated high school, so of course you had those friends that would be like, "Hey man, you don't hang around the fellas anymore. What's going on? Your girl got you,
Which is like a hint, a little shoulder.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like that. And of course I went off to school in the fall, I'm sorry. And so when I went off to school, we kind of the friend group kind of split up. Everybody kind of lost touch with each other because this was the days before everybody had a cell phone, So we just went our ways, but I still had the same phone number, the home phone number at the house. So it just so happened that, I would be home for the weekend. Margaret would call and I would answer and, we would talk or she would leave a message, things like that. So we stayed in contact, but it wasn't like an every week thing. It was, every few months, we would get in contact with each other some kind of how, even when I was in my relationship.
Okay. So then as you guys, when you separate from the girl that you're dating, you had feelings already for her. So then at that point, when do you start thinking like there's an opportunity here?
Okay. Now we have to back up about the feelings because there was one period before I met the girlfriend that I was sitting in my room and I was thinking, just thinking about things like, I'm a teenager, so life is just not going the way I thought it was going to go. And I started just thinking about people in my life. And I just thought about, Margaret she's cool. I really like her. I dig her. You know what I'm saying? At some point in time, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I would like to, and I'm going to make her happy one day. It was just a declaration. I was 16, 17. And so before I met my ex-girlfriend, I had it in my head. I said, all right, I'm going to go and confess my love. I knew where she worked at. We ran into each other. I knew where she worked at. And she informed me. Now, during this time, she went off at school. She was going to college here locally. So she informed me that she was going to school out of town, which was like an hour and a half away. But, my mind was like, I was going to confess my love. So I went to her job. She told me she was going away to school. I was like, So I kept quiet.
And that's when he met the girlfriend.
Yeah.
It was after that experience.
A month later, so I met the girlfriend. Yeah.
So I went to school. Like I said, I'd come home for breaks. I would reach out to him. At the time, I had a short haircut. It was shaved in the back, and he cuts hair. So I would come home, and he would cut my hair for me. And all this time, I knew about his girlfriend. Like I said, we had met. And then our friends would tell me, she's crazy. You got to do something. What do you want me to do? But like I said, I just knew that he deserved better than that. And at the very core of everything, he was my friend, and he deserved to be happy and to be treated properly.
Yep.
Beautiful. Because then truly, so for Margaret, you're like, this is my friend, and I want the best for him. There's no selfishness. There's no, I want him to be with me. It's just, I want him to be happy in this relationship, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So fast forward to 96. I had a crazy year. I had dropped out of school. I dropped out of school because my dad had become sick, and he was in the hospital, and then he passed away. And so after that is when I dropped out of school, and I was working, and then my relationship with that ex it started deteriorating. And I remember when my dad, during my dad's passing, I had received a letter from Margaret, and it was a card, and she was just, a card and a letter, just a sympathy, just thinking of you, heard about your dad's passing. And it had her current address on it. So I was like, well, after the dust settled out, write her back and send her a card or whatnot. And so the ex-girlfriend decides that that's not going to happen. So the card disappears some kind of how. I don't know.
And even with that, my concern was still, I hope he's okay. Because I didn't hear back from him after the card. I was upset that his dad had passed away and I wasn't in town. So I was still just upset that, hoping that he was okay, because I didn't get a chance to see him.
Yeah.
After his dad passed away.
Yep.
And that was in 96. And it was December of 96 that I decided I had left school, and I went and I moved away, and I was finding myself. And I decided I need to come home and make some more mature decisions. And I came home for Christmas, and I told him, I think I'm going to move back home. Can you help me move my stuff? And he was like, yeah, of course. And so that January of 97, we went and picked my stuff up and moved my stuff back home. And it was like, from that point on, we were inseparable. And I don't know when things shifted. It was fairly early in 97, but there was just a shift in the dynamics of the relationship.
I think it was around close to Valentine's that year. Yeah, it was close to Valentine's.
We
that was like the middle of June when we went to go pick your stuff up. It was like middle of January. I'm sorry.
So middle of January, you go and you guys are now spending a lot more time together because right, Byron, you're kind of taking care of Margaret now.
Yeah.
And then Valentine's Day comes up, and probably that's like where the atmosphere shifted to maybe like dating. And
well, I asked her about becoming my Valentine.
But even that night, that was his mom's first Valentine's without his dad.
Yeah.
And we actually took her.
Yeah.
What, we go to a movie and dinner?
To a movie, yeah.
So we actually, the two of us took his mom to a movie and dinner for her first Valentine's.
So it was still kind of like we're friends, but of course I wanted more, but I didn't know where her mind was. So it was kind of like I'm just kind of feeling my way, but we're together constantly.
Mhm.
We're, she's at my house, I'm at her house, we're watching movies, we're hugging when we say goodbye, maybe a little peck on the cheek, things like that. But that was how our relationship was. It's nothing never necessarily defined, we didn't come up with it at a point and say, hey, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. It was just so that's why we can't say, when things happen.
Now,
Mhm.
going deep, can you say, Byron, that if however things had worked out, you would have been happy? Like if you guys could only maintain a platonic relationship, do you think you would have still been happy? Like, was it painful to be in this state of, well, I have more feelings for Margaret that I am afraid of exposing at this point?
Mhm.
How that proceeded, would you have been happy either way, do you think?
Yes, I would have been happy. Like I said, I think the whole thing was when she told me she was moving back home, I wasn't even thinking about anything as far as any type of relationship. When she told me she was moved back home, it was like that just I remembered making that declaration. So I was like, well, this is my chance. It's like it's now or never.
I don't, and I don't think that because so then in the midst of it, it was just we were spending time together, and that time kind of shifted but we've talked about it as adults. And you see the when people are saying, should married couples have opposite sex friends? And when that comes up, I think about the two of us because if we got pregnant and got married, but we had a discussion before we got married. Are we going to try and make this work, or are we just going to be co-parents? But either way, this is my friend. This is my best friend. Yeah. And so we've talked about it since. And I said, I really think that because I was going to stubbornly hold on to my friend. I had done it all that time. So if we had not been together, we probably would have been two very marginally happy people with someone
people,
else, but holding on to that connection because it was, that was just, I wanted to be with my friend.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. So tell me about this conversation that you guys are having, because I'm very interested, and I try to defend opposite sex relationships, platonic relationships, even though people are married or in a romantic relationship. Where did you guys end off on that? So like you guys are okay right now if you had, if Byron has a female friend or Margaret, you have a male friend, it's a no.
It's a no. Well, and so the word friend, that has a lot of meaning to me because he started out as a platonic friend, and here we are. Acquaintances, we have, coworkers and things of that nature that we may be in contact with for whatever reason. But for me, a friendship means that I'm pouring energy and effort into it. And I can't risk the connection that my husband and I have by pouring that energy and effort into someone who could potentially take that and make more of it, or I could even take that and make more of it. And so for the two of us, that's something that we draw the line with.
Like when we talk about it, like, we know where people are coming from. Most people are thinking, well, you grew up in an area, you have people that you've known since you were children. Right. Those are your friends. But the friendship, how's the friendship defined? Every friendship is defined differently. So like, I can't be right. I can't be right as a husband and have this female friend, and she comes home and I'm on the phone with her. And we just talking, just like, two guys would be talking, you know what I'm saying? Or she's in the room and I'm on the phone with this young lady, you know, and then we're not talking about business. We're just talking about whatever, you know, and that's kind of like the, you know, I think people get it confused as saying, oh, we can't have no friends. Or what kind of person are you? Are you jealous? And it's like, that's not, we're saying that friendship can cross a line at some point in time. And you have to be able to, there still has to be a line drawn in the sand. You know, I'm not going on vacation with the girl that I, you know, grew up with in my neighborhood and I'm married. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going, if she calls me and like, hey, I need to go out of town for, you know, a job. And if I need somebody to ride with me, you're going to come along. No, I can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So those are the type of things that, you know, we try to break down for. It's not that, yeah, you just dismiss all of your acquaintances, but like the acquaintances that I have, they respect my wife. When they come over, I work on cars on the side. So if they come over, I work on their car, you know, hey, how's Margaret doing? Oh, she's in there. They'll go speak to her. They'll talk to her. You know what I'm saying? So it's a level of respect when it comes to it.
Okay, and now, so you got several powerful things, and I don't want to lose our place in the story because I know we still have some more to go. But it sounds to me like you guys are very specific about the definition of friendship.
Yes.
Like you don't, everyone's not a friend. You have your acquaintances, coworkers, colleagues,
right?
And what there's a threshold there.
Right.
Yes.
Byron, I agree with you 100%. If the definition of friendship is our own to carry, we determine who we're going to call friend and elevate to that level. So it's beautiful insight. And I 100% respect that you say, I'm not going to have a female friend. So it doesn't mean that you don't get along with females and and cut them off completely. It's not, oh, I'm married, so I don't associate myself with the females, but it's out of respect. It's I don't have female friends. I do have acquaintances and they come over and they know both of you. So if you have a female friend, or Margaret, if you have a male friend, they come to both of you.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Okay. Very powerful and insightful and just like honest feedback. So I appreciate that. Okay. So where do we leave off? So, okay, you guys, you got pregnant and then you're deciding whether you want to actually, like, are we going to co-parent or are we going to marry?
Right.
So how does that decision get made and what happens next?
Now, during this time, at that time, when we had the discussion, we were actually living together. And it was kind of one of those things where the ex kind of resurfaced herself in the mix. And there were a few times where, you know, there was some conversation going on between her and I. And so we were trying to define, because like I said, we never necessarily established to say, hey, you're my girlfriend, I'm your boyfriend. We were just together 24/7, you know what I'm saying? Or every day. We was just together every day.
And we literally sat down. Let's see, that was October. So I was October. 7 months pregnant at the time. And we sat down and said, look, we're in this lease until this point in time. We need to figure out what to do. I said, if need be, you know, we had a 2-bedroom apartment. I said, if need be, one of us can move into the other room with the baby. And we can be roommates. We can remain friends. We can co-parent. But if we're going to go all in, then we have to be committed to that. And that was, I mean, it was not easy. It wasn't comfortable, but we knew that we had to come to terms with things and make that decision.
And Margaret, you at this point understand your own feelings that you have a romantic interest in Byron.
By that time, yes.
But how long, like, how do you feel about that switch? Because it sounds like it happened so gradually.
It was very natural to, like, my family for years. This was their son. So it was a very natural thing. My concern was if we make the decision to be together and then things don't work out, then I've lost a partner, but I've also lost my friend.
Yeah.
And this isn't just friend, right? This is
Right.
like best friend
Right.
because
Right.
of how tight you guys have been
Right.
for years.
Yeah.
And so that was a big thing, is that, you know, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it. But if we had made the decision then, okay, we're just going to co-parent, it would be a lot easier to not even go there first, any more than we have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we made the decision that we were going to be together. And throughout the years, the one thing that gets us back on track when something happens, when life starts getting in the way. We had our son, and a few years later we had our daughter, we adopted. One thing that always came back was the fact that this is my friend, and I need to debrief with my friend for a minute, because everything is going on, and I just need that comfort. I need that peace. I need to know that I'm not crazy, or that I'm not by myself in this. And that's what we go back to.
I see. So I know when we talked in the discovery call, we talked about how when you guys have issues, even up to today, you go back to this friendship root that you started with to resolve them. So tell me about that here. Like, how do you feel like that compares to people who were always romantic?
Well, you know, I know for me, it wasn't hard for me. I just knew that, you know, once I had her in my life on a daily basis, I did not want to go again without her being in my life on a daily basis. So, you know, that's the structure that we have used to navigate throughout our entire relationship. So, you know, me having that feeling and her having that feeling, it's like, okay, we got to figure out how to make this or work through this issue, whatever the issue is.
There's a lot of, for me, actually for both of us, there's a lot of getting out of our own way.
Yeah.
So to take the me part out and sit that aside, and then just, okay, we got to focus and we got to regroup. We love to laugh. We love to, we like each other. We like to be together.
Yeah.
So if there is any type of disagreement, there's discomfort there beyond just, he's getting on my nerves. It's okay, he's getting on my nerves, but we got to get to the bottom of this, because I just saw this funny picture and we need to laugh at this together.
Right. Yeah.
Or because I just saw that this concert is happening and we need to get tickets, and I can't do that if I'm mad at him. Yeah. And that's literally what it is it doesn't feel good. And it's more uncomfortable to be in that situation where there's the disconnect than it is to go ahead and say, all right, I'm sorry, I was wrong, or we need to talk about this because this is how I felt. We need to get this out of the way because we've got this coming up.
Yeah.
And so it makes it easier to focus on those things, because when we are in conflict, it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, because and the thing about it is, like, conflict can like almost ruin things in any type of relationship. When you think about, like, okay, when couples argue and they get upset, they argue, they're yelling at each other, they're screaming at each other, hurtful words are said, and then now you're not speaking to each other. And then you go from not speaking to each other when you're both in the same room and you're trying your damnedest not to touch each other, because if you're walking by, I don't even want to touch them, you know, and both of you sleeping on the seam of the mattress all the way as far apart as you can without falling off the bed.
I don't do that much anymore.
No conversation, no nothing. It's just, you know, to the point, and it's like, it's not natural. And so you have to decide, how long do I want to live in this unnatural state? Because naturally we're laughing, we're playing, we're kissing, we're touching, we're holding on to each other. I grab her and hug her. And then, you know, when you're upset, you don't want to do that because you've got a point to prove. And that's where you take self out, because self says, I have a point to prove.
Right.
The friend says, nah, I need to mend this thing because I want to get back to where we were before all this happened. So, you know, that's putting a lot of self aside, you know, just saying, hey, you know what? Let's have this discussion, even though it hurts to have it. You don't want to do it. Yeah. I can't understand how people, and I don't think might have gone a day or two. I don't think it's gone no longer than 3 days before we, like, hey, something got to give. But I can't imagine going weeks. I've heard people say, you know, I hadn't talked to my wife in 2 weeks. Like, what? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's wild. Especially living under the same roof.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's stressful. It's stressful because you think about pulling up to the house, you're upset, and then you see them pull in the driveway after you pull in the driveway. You're like, God, how's this transaction going to go? What they going to do? What they going to say? Let me hurry up and get in the house. And it's like you're focused on trying to avoid each other instead of trying to come together.
Yes.
I don't do that much anymore. I've grown and matured.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And that's what I'm looking to hear, right? Is how your friendship allows you to break those barriers faster instead of staying in the anger or like the punishment. Sometimes it's punishment, right? Like, you made me so mad that I'm not going to talk to you.
Right.
And I'm punishing you for whatever your action was.
Right.
Giving grace, which I think friends would allow more grace than the romantic couples.
And the grace part, that's one thing that we've been together and we've experienced a lot, good and bad. And in the midst of our relationship, probably about year, I don't know, 15 or so, I had a lot of memories come back to me and a realization of a lot of things. And the struggles that I was going through individually started to impact our marriage and just how I interacted with my kids. And he could have said, you know, you've got to take care of all of this, or you need to get help, or you're crazy, or, you know, he could have said a lot of things, but he allowed me to lean on him, to cry on his shoulder. He allowed me to yell at him and fuss at him. He comforted me, and he allowed that. He gave that grace so that I could get to a point to where, okay, I need to do better for him. I need to do better for the kids. I need to do better for myself. And a lot of times it's so easy to turn when things are difficult like that, especially if the other person is pulling away from you. And he gave the grace that I needed to work through those things. And even then, like we have now, you know, we may be getting ready to record, or we may have tickets for something. Like he said, we can't go for too long because we can't be on here with you.
Right.
Like,
you can't be on here authentically with me and that each other. It's
right.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like I said, we're going to a comedy show on Friday. We can't sit in there next to each other, leaning away from each other, like quiet laughing. So those types of things that we bond over, the things that we enjoy doing together, the interests that we have, the shared interests, those things help keep us on that even keel also. And we look at those as ways of enhancing our friendship too.
I love that. Go for it, Byron.
Also, part of the grace is, excuse me, being the kind of partner that, you know, you become trustworthy over time. And trustworthy is you being able to listen, you know, when she finally told me some of the things that happened to her. And it's like, okay, that's why she does this, or that's why she does that. And it gives me an understanding so I can say, okay, well, it's not me. And a lot of times people will mistaken a simple gesture as, an attack on you. And it's not an attack on you. It's, a response. It's a trauma response. And so being the friend that I was and being in that friendship element, she was able to tell me, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. And I'm like, okay, I get it now. And so a part of that grace is also sharing that information with your partner so you can really get down to the source of it. So I can say, okay, well, it may be as simple as, relative used to slap you upside the head or something as a child. And that's something traumatic. Well, I mean, it's a traumatic, event, but, I mean, I'm a guy, so, that's my brothers did that to me growing up. Right. But, if you tell me, well, I had a cousin of mine that used to slap me upside my head. Well, then I know to, when I put my arm around you, if I do touch your head, that could be triggering, that could not be, but I know that because you told me that. So now I know how to move. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, there's ways to work through things, but the communication of, and being trustworthy to have that type of conversation also. You know what I'm saying? And that's the important part of that friendship element. So it's that friendship element that allowed me for her to tell me those things. And of course it stayed inside because I, what am I going to look like going to tell my friends, hey, this happened to my wife, that would be crazy,
Yeah. So I see that in some romantic relationships, there is actually a lack of friendship. What would you say to couples that are struggling with the essence of their relationship? Because there's so many things that happen, right? You've got kids, and sometimes both parents are working, and there's stressors of bills and whatever needs to happen at the house, and then family. So you've got all of this crashing down, and there's no time or room to really take care of what should be a friendship in that romance. What do you say to couples that struggle with that?
Well, you have to be intentional about your relationship, your marriage. So, those are things that you're going through, and we had life happen to us with the kids over and over. But, one of the things we did is we made sure that once the kids were in bed, they were in bed and settled. Well, between that time and, bedtime, that was our time, to talk, to discuss things, or to just sit there and hang out. We didn't necessarily have to actually have a conversation, but, if I'm on my iPad doing something and she's crocheting what she loves to do, we're in the same room. That's our bonding time. Or, we might schedule, hey, such and such came on the other night. It's one of our favorite shows, so we'll sit and watch it together. Some people may have to schedule date nights, but and I get sometimes you have to do those things, but you have to just be intentional about putting out scheduling that time, to just be at one with each other. Do those things that you did in the beginning of the relationship. You know what I'm saying?
And also with date nights and things like that, just sometimes a day date, a low pressure, let's go get a burger date, or let's just go walk around the block together. Those are the type things where you remove the romantic element and you just hang out with your partner. Those are the times when there's no pressure. You can just breathe. You can just, you sit with each other, you look at this, and then there's that comfortable silence. Those are the times that allow you to get closer also in a friendship way and to cultivate that friendship, because it's hard if you have a scheduled date night or you're trying to be romantic, and there's pressure with that.
Yeah.
And that pressure can build up and make it seem like more of a chore. And so instead of worrying about that, sometimes it's just, let's just go grab something to eat. And thankfully our kids are old enough that we could go do that without our kids and
Yes.
have that time.
And if the kids are smaller, that might mean just, investing some money and saying, hey, I'm gonna pay your mama to keep the kids tonight, and we just gonna sit at home and do nothing.
Because this time is important to us. So let's
Right.
spend the money
Just
so we
doing-
can do it.
Right.
Exactly.
And like I said, no pressure, just some time that we can sit, we can hear our own thoughts, we can talk to each other and watch some Dateline.
Yeah. And we were very fortunate when the kids were younger that we had those family and friends to help out. One child, whether both of them went with them or one child went here, another child went there. So we had that time where, it was just us and we were able to, go to the store by ourselves.
Yep.
Just those simple things that, you miss doing when, before you had kids. So, you just have to be intentional about setting out time for one another.
Absolutely. So now I'm going to ask you about how external friendships support your marriage, because we did talk about Tom Rath's vital friendships and vital friends, and about how somebody can only bring 2 to 3 roles out of the 8 that he mentions to your table. So how do you guys, because obviously you have such a great relationship with each other, but how do you encourage each other to spend time with your friends outside of your marriage, and how do you make sure that you have all those roles fulfilled in that manner?
So he's very extroverted. He is a people person. He he spends time with friends based on interest. He has one friend that he rides motorcycles with. He just recently reunited with a friend from elementary school.
Yeah,
and they both are interested in music production and things like that. So he went today and spent some time with him. I love that he has his hobbies that he's interested in, his passions that he loves, and he has people that he can share those things with. For me, I have a very small circle because I am very introverted. And so I have my core group of friends that will keep me in line or and let me know, you were wrong about that. And they can and they're there for me if I know that I teach. One of my friends is a teacher. So when it comes to work related issues, instead of coming home and dumping everything on him, I have her and we can talk about these things because she knows what I mean. Not to say he doesn't listen when I do talk to him, but I know that she understands when I talk to her. And if I need guidance, then I go to her for that. So we support those who help us be better as individuals, and we support each other in finding those friendships.
Yeah, even throughout our marriage, she's a great judgment of character. So every friend that she's had has become a sister to me. Throughout time, where those friends are may not necessarily be in our lives, but during that time, that was like a sister. Hey, you talk to such and such. I would encourage that because I knew that by her being an introvert, and if she took the time out to engage or have that relationship with that individual, and I see that they're positive and I see that they are good influence, I try to support it by just, hey, when they come over, I let them do their, they have their time, they do their thing. And, we just, I like me personally, I don't have, friends that try to discourage my marriage. So my friends support my marriage. And if they don't, they're not friends.
Absolutely.
I don't have that, I don't have that friend that, my wife can't stand to be around, they're gone. And that's as simple as that, so.
Yeah, I always say right? Because I'm a single man, so I always say I get both. So when my friends that are married, I get both them and their spouse, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah,
come as a
exactly.
package deal.
Oh yeah,
Right.
definitely.
I 100% agree that if I'm trying to get close to somebody and their spouse doesn't like me, it's probably a no-go. The
Right,
friendship can't grow. I can't be close to you because
exactly.
Right.
yeah, how can you stand to hear your spouse complain about
Right.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there has to be right a love from both. That you
exactly.
in a way you fold into that marriage a little bit as a friend,
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah,
and that to me is a much deeper connection than I only know one. Like I know you're married and I don't know your spouse at all. I probably don't feel that close.
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
Like,
that's
are we really friends?
and that's
Yeah,
how we like we said earlier, that the levels, you have your friends and your acquaintances and
Mm,
things like that. And so our friends know, they know us. They know, like, if they have a question about a car,
mm,
I'll get a text, can you ask Byron if, and so they know that, and they support us. Like I said, my best friend, he and I'll get into it if it's really bad, and I'm talking to her and telling her this is what I said. She will tell me you were wrong,
yeah. And
and
we
I'm
need that. We
and I'm
need
like,
that.
I know, but it felt good. So
yeah, yeah, yep.
so I am still a work in progress, but
It felt good to cuss him out.
right. But now I have to go apologize, and I don't like to apologize. So usually I'm very good, but she'll let me know, you were wrong about that. She allows me the space to vent, and then she lets me know. And it's the
Mm,
same with him. He
yeah, same
allows
with
me
my
that
friends.
space to vent, and then he lets me know, you could handle that a little better.
Right.
Mm,
And I think this is what Tom Rath was going for, is that you
Mhm.
need the friend that can coach you, that can mentor you, the friend that cheers you on. You have all
yeah,
Mhm.
these different friends because in your marriage, you don't want to overburden your spouse. And
right.
it's so beautiful how you explain, Margaret, that your teacher friend, instead of coming home and saying, "Oh, my kids were a mess and I dealt with
Mhm.
Mm,
the
Mhm.
principal," and stuff that Byron probably is like, I don't know. I'm not from that
Right.
world. You have the friend and you say, "Hey, my friend and I are gonna go at it. So when I go home to Byron, I've
Right.
got
yeah,
this clear head and I'm ready to engage him."
mm,
Right.
yeah,
And that's, he gets some of it. He gets a little mini snippet of it to let him know this is why I'm behaving this
yeah.
way today.
Yes.
Or
She'll be like, I had to fill out an SEC form on one child a day. And I'm like, what the heck is the
Yeah,
SEC?
right. What's an SEC?
right. Or
Yeah,
and the same with him. He'll
yeah,
come and he'll, tell me things about work, and I'm like, mhm.
yeah.
So we get snippets of those
Mm,
things, so that we know that that support is still there. But like I said, when it gets down to it, that goes somewhere else, and that's good, so that we're still
yeah,
engaged in our daily
And how
comings and
you take
goings.
care of each other on a regular basis. Like you can still maintain the integrity of
Right,
that.
yeah.
right.
Mm,
Because there is an expectation, and I think the expectation is getting worse as we go through time, that married couples are to provide each other with everything.
Hmm.
I like,
Hmm.
oh well, we've made this commitment to each other, and so now you have to be my everything. You
yeah,
Hmm.
have to be the person
yeah,
I
yeah.
vent to. You have to be the person that expectation A B C D E F G is it's a contract,
Right,
Yeah.
and
right.
Yep.
it's impossible.
So I am my bachelor's is in sociology. I am very intrigued by people and their behaviors. And a few years back, when I can't remember what it was, but polyamorous relationships became popular, or something happened. And I started reading into it. And one of the first things I read said, there's no way you can be everything to one person.
Mm,
And that made so much sense to me. So a lot of times people look at it and they think it's because of sex, or it's because of this, or that man just wants to cheat and have permission to do it. But when you hear an explanation about that, to me, that's a very mature way to view things. You
Yeah.
can't be everyone to one person. And so for us, the way that we supplement is through our friends and our family, but to
Beautiful.
others, they have relationships that fit those needs.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of pressure to put on one person.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is.
It's way too much. And then in my opinion, like outsider looking in, when you overburden your spouse like that, things
Yeah.
are going to get hectic.
Oh yeah.
Always,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
always.
it's too much
And
pressure.
if you are doing the overburdening, chances are your spouse is not able to even get a little bit out.
Mhm.
So they're taking on your stuff and their stuff.
Yep.
So
Yeah. So this is beautiful because this is exactly this is what I love. So we've talked about friendship and your marriage, and we've also now advocated for friendship outside of your marriage within the
Mhm.
bounds of respect to the marriage, right? Which
Yes.
I love.
right.
And
Yes.
also, I'm a big advocate of using friend correctly, right? So just like you guys said, we've got our colleagues, our coworkers, and whatever. You're a friend when I call you a friend, and
Right.
not until then.
Exactly.
So there's just a lot of concepts that we actually touched on throughout your story and that you opened up to share. So I really appreciate that. So I want you guys to just take a moment and leave whatever nugget you want to leave, whether it's about the friendship and marriage or just allowing your spouse to breathe. Like, what do you want to give to the audience today before we close up?
Well, one of our important sayings, or whatever you want to call it, our words of wisdom, is you have to like your spouse. You have to like them. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like over love, because you have family that you love. You don't want to see them every day. You don't want to be around them every day.
Mm-mm.
You love your brother, but your brother get on your nerves because his favorite team is not your favorite team, and that's all he talks about is his favorite team.
Right. So we're talking about this unconditional love, right? So we
Right,
have,
right.
and
Right.
obviously for your spouse, you
Right.
have this
Yeah,
unconditional love. I'll love
exactly.
you no matter thick and
I
thin.
love you no matter what, but you have to like them in order to want
That's what
to
makes
be
it
around
easy.
them. It makes it easier.
Mhm.
There's nothing like hearing a man say, "Oh man, ball and chain want to go do something tonight." Like what? Ball and chain? That's how you describe your mate? But just having that just I like being with her. I like being around her. I look forward to coming home and looking at her or spending time with her, and that has to have a lot of like. And I sometimes I don't see the like in some people, and I'm just like, you can just look around, you pay attention to people's gestures, pay attention to their mannerism when they're with the spouse. A lot of times you see the wife walking 5-10 feet ahead of his wife, and I'm like, man, y'all, what kind of it's just short words. They eat, they don't talk to each other, they're on the phone. One of them's on the phone, the other one's on the phone. But and we may do some of the same things, like be on the phone, but I'm showing her this. Hey, I saw this. This is funny,
Yeah.
and she does the same thing. We're sending it to each other. We're laughing. We're talking about people. But I mean, you have to like your mate,
Yeah.
whoever it is. You have to.
Cultivate that friendship.
Yep. Cultivate that friendship. 100%.
Beautifully said. Margaret, anything from you?
Cultivate your friendship.
Friendship, that's the big one. Okay.
Friendship. Yep.
I love it so much. Thank you guys for sharing your story. And I think it just gives the audience a really pretty picture of what friendship can do in a marriage and still advocates for friendship outside of marriage. So just
Mhm.
well done and great insight. Where can we find you, Margaret and Byron?
So our website is www.beyondidopodcast.com. And all of our links to our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel are there.
Yep.
And we also have a book, and it's Unlocking Forever 10 Keys to Successful Marriage Beyond I Do. and that is also on our website.
Okay, great. And I will have links to the website, to the podcast, and to the book as well. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate your time. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And I think, are you going to comedy this Friday? Is that what we're saying?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow
Okay,
night.
outstanding. You guys have an amazing time, and I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to talking to you again sometime soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.